Hello, everyone, and happy International Lucid Dreaming Day. I'm Ryan with Skyfall Blind Dreamer.
Hello, I'm Amina.
I'm Brandon, or
Yep.
Curious Box. Not sure if Night Owl can come in at the moment, but he seems to
He
be
is here
walking
with
out of a
us.
very pleasant place.
I'm here, guys. Happy Lucid
Awesome.
Dreaming Day, and happy birthday to my daughter as well.
So cute. Oops.
So, on behalf of the okay,
I'm gonna mute Night Owl. Okay,
great,
there we
thank you.
go.
All right, on behalf of the Lucid Dream Initiative, I'd just like to thank anyone who is watching this either live or recorded. And we're just gonna chill out, have some fun, maybe take a few audience questions, and play a little game or two. And we're here to celebrate lucid dreaming. That is the point of this day. And so I'd like to go to Amina to talk more about kind of the history of this day, and we can get into sort of what it means for each of us and how we can celebrate and commemorate our own lucid dreaming practices as well as lucid dreaming more generally.
Yes, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm so excited to celebrate this day. So, for those that don't know, on April 12th, 1975, this is from Robert Wagner's Facebook page, by the way. Alan Worsley slept in a laboratory at Hull University in the UK to make scientific history. Around 8 a.m., after 30 minutes of dreaming, he realized within the dream that he was dreaming. And he was in the sleep lab, and he remembered how graduate student researcher Keith Hearn, who wrote one of the first PhDs or the first PhD about lucid dreaming specifically, and he asked him to signal his awareness that he was dreaming by moving his eyes left to right. And this left-right signal would be picked up by the rapid eye movement pads on his eyes to confirm that he was consciously aware while he was dreaming. So this kind of set the stage for research regarding lucid dreaming that is still being done today. And so a popular lucid dreaming content creator, Daniel Love, coined today, April 12th, because of that scientific research history, International Lucid Dreaming Day. So we're here to celebrate and share some dreams, play some games, answer questions, and all that good stuff.
And just a little sidebar, that left right eye signal that's picked up with EOG, that is today still 30 plus, 35, almost 40 years later. Keep in mind, next year it'll be, holy crap, 30, 40, no, wait, 90, 30, 40. It's almost 50 years, guys. Next year, 2025, it'll be 50 years since that first experiment. So 49 years later, that left right eye movement signal is still the gold standard for what's called a signal verified lucid dream to this day. That has had an outsized impact on the field of lucid dream research, and it's still one of the best things we have going for us in terms of lab verified lucid dreams. So I just wanted to just take a moment to just consider what kind of achievement that is, that what the protocol was that Keith Hearn used in 1975 and that Dr. Stephen LaBerge and others have replicated since then remains the gold standard. And just think about that for a second. It's been 49 years. That's a lot. That's awesome. But yeah, basically for each of us as individuals, we take time to reflect on where we have come with lucid dreaming. And I think it's good for each of us to do that and to look at what our futures can hold. And I think it's just a good day to encourage anyone who might be struggling with their practice, or anyone who's considering lucid dreaming, or anyone who's just, wants maybe to turn over a new leaf or have a new beginning. This is just a great day to kind of commemorate where you've been or where you are, where you want to go. And so I'll just kind of start. And I started lucid dreaming 3.5 years ago. Now, I can't believe it's been so long. I was only 20. I wasn't even 24 years old yet. I was 23, and I was 24 3 days after I started my practice. And I'm 27 now. And I just remember first hearing about it on YouTube. Well, not remembering that I'd heard about it watching Star Trek, but that's another story altogether. And it sounded so amazing. And I decided to get more involved. And of course, when I first started learning, I fell victim to a lot of the typical tropes and traps online that people, fall into. That has been an issue for years, actually. But I started learning. I read Explore the World of Lucid Dreaming and some other things. I found some really good mentors, and that helped me along my way. And I've just had a passion ever since, not only to practice lucid dreaming, to just enjoy it. I really enjoy lucid dreaming. It's just a wonderful and amazing experience, liberating experience. But to help others learn how to do it has been my real passion for the past several years. And so I feel very privileged to reflect back on where I've come from. And I've, from everything from just starting to lucid dream to that first time telling my family about it to that dream where I was on a 737, I was trying to fly it just in my 11th lucid dream, to all those years later to Reddit and Discord and YouTube, and now with LDI that we're starting, just looking at where we come. This is truly a time to celebrate. And I still have this passion to help other people learn lucid dreaming. And I just think it's an amazing thing for everyone to share with each other.
I
All
love
right.
it. I love it. Okay, so I guess I'm next. Um, so I'm so excited to just be a lucid dreamer and like bring awareness to this day and celebrate. I actually started lucid dreaming when I was 8 years old. A lot of people know this. That was my first lucid dream. And at first, I didn't really know what it was. I guess it just kind of came naturally for me at the time. I had them here and there. And then when I became like a teenager, I had like more sleep paralysis and that kind of thing. And I started to figure out like, just doing research, and I figured out like, oh, this is like a thing that people can do and that they induce, and there's so much more you can do within this space. So once I figured out all the potentials of lucid dreaming, I stopped just waking myself up and I would explore the dream space more. And I was always just fascinated by like consciousness and existentialism and all this beyond physical reality concept. So I just kind of became obsessed and fell in love with exploring the dream space. Started a podcast in 2020. I guess that's kind of when a lot of people woke up within the dream space and started to, take this stuff more seriously. So as you know, I have the Dream World podcast, and then that just led me to getting involved with just more of the community. I met more lucid dreamers and dream workers, and that's really what really expanded it for me, was finding that community. Like, the lucid dreaming community is just so tight knit and it's still very niche, and everybody's just so helpful and kind. And so I've just loved getting to know people that have different skills and abilities and help each other out within the dream space. And then, of course, it led me to meet this wonderful group of people and start the Lucid Dream Initiative. So I am really happy about that. And while we're doing this, if anybody does have questions, drop your questions in the chat. We will get to them. But yeah, love and sweet dreams. That's my intro.
Wow, Amina, I have to say, it's absolutely fascinating listening to you both about how we all came across these different journeys to discover something so special like lucid dreaming, right? Because the first lucid dream I had was natural, but when I really started inducing it, I discovered what it really was and what the magic of lucid dreaming is. So in 2020, I started going through all of these courses, and especially on YouTube, so just a little bit similar to what Skyfall did, and I met him around actually the same time. And during that time, after taking months and months to really induce it, that first lucid dream was the most wondrous thing that I could ever imagine. And as I tell every single person when they start a practice like that, if you really want to enjoy and experience what a lucid dream is like, you need to be there. I can do all the describing that I can try doing, but in order to get that true experience, you really need to be there. So ever since, I've been iterating through so many different forms of techniques, as well as parts of my different parts of my life, just putting that into the dream and seeing, how can you utilize a world that is full of that boundless possibility? So at least at the moment, as I told my fellow co-founders a little bit earlier, I've been trying to use memory techniques to bring something that is tangible in the real world into those dreams. And I cannot wait to see where we go from now, because as Typel said, it's been 50 years since we really established that research. And as with AI and as with lucid dreaming, as we get to this point, it'll only get better from here as more and more people start to know about it.
You almost have me thinking about those like "Wish You Were Here" postcards. Like, you really just can't do it justice. You got to be here to experience it. You kind of have me thinking about that for a second, and I just love how that thought kind of came up. But yeah, honestly, like to be your travel agent for lucid dreaming. It's altogether total expenses for your trip would be about $0 if you do it right. And there's a lot of ways you can learn lucid dreaming online. Those of you who are familiar with us, we've done live streams. We talked about lucid dreaming from all different angles. Um, those who are familiar with me, you know that I'm on Reddit. My eternal specter has been haunting that place now for about a year and 4 months or so. Yeah, I think it's about right. Year and 4 months since I joined Reddit. I think it was December 15th, 2022. So right around that time. And yeah, there's a lot to explore, honestly. The only limits with what you can achieve in a lucid dream are your own imagination. And it really is up to you how you do it. That's what's so cool about lucid dream. There's no like one right way to experience a lucid dream because every person is different in their own little unique ways. And you will have interests and desires and things that you might want to do that are perfectly your own. And you're free to explore those in lucid dreams. And just being aware, like honestly, there's nothing that really compares to that kind of first time feeling. You're experiencing this, especially if you get a nice vivid lucid dream, like you're experiencing this really like vivid sensation, and then you just like you're walking around somewhere. Like mine was my second lucid dream. I was in my bedroom and I was walking around like holy crap, I'm actually in a dream right now. This is so freaking amazing. Like I'm actually in bed dreaming and here I am walking around. It's like the coolest thing in the world. It is bizarre and mind-blowing in some ways when you first experiencing that. And then for me, I've really kind of gotten used to it. For me, it's just another normal thing. It's normal for me to have those kind of experiences now. And I will say that beginning wonder is truly an amazing thing, and it's definitely worth the wait and worth the effort for people who are practicing. And so, thinking about kind of the future, I want to be able to devote more time to obviously my own practice and to working with other people. I would like to possibly put some more content out here, do more with LDI. We got a lot in the works going for the stuff that we're trying to do, working on getting ourselves officially established. But there's just so many ways and places that you can go in a dream, and then there's actually a really fun way I think we would like to kind of illustrate that. And so I think this is where we're going to play a little bit of a game. We discussed this a few nights ago, and Curious and I kind of came up with this idea. And basically, what we're going to do is we're going to each start one off, and we're going to kind of tell dream stories, but with a twist. We're going to be improvising. So the first person is going to start off by telling a story from one of their dreams. They're going to start by describing one of their dreams. Then in about, say, 15 seconds or so, it's going to jump to the next person, and the next person has to improv the story and decide where it goes, and then the next person after that. And so it's going to be kind of an improv game just to see where it goes, and kind of like a fun way to think about dreams and the nature of dreams, because they can be really, they can change quite a lot and very easily and very quickly, not always predictably. And so you can have some really interesting associative experiences when dreaming, and I hope we can reflect that. So let's have a little fun.
Yay! Can I go first? I have a dream that I
Sure,
feel
go
Shall we
right
figure
ahead.
out an order too, or
So what I think we'll do is, so Mina will start. Go Mina, Curious, me, then you, me, Amina, and then me, Amina, you. Unless Nidal wants to jump in.
So when we're telling the dream, we tell it like I did this, like first person.
Yep.
You
And
continue.
then after that, you jump to the next person and you do the same thing. And let's just say, Curious, you want to keep time?
15 seconds per person.
Per person, each way you go through, yeah. And so here's the question: is do we want to? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, or we can make it 20 seconds. We can make it 20 or 30 seconds if you want to. Like honestly, we can be really flexible with this because I'd love to
I
see
think
what
we'll
we
go
can
20 seconds for a maximum time limit.
Right.
Yeah, you can let
Though
the
I don't
person
want to
finish
cut
the
anyone
sentence.
off.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
we'll let you finish
but
the
that's the
sentence.
point. You are cutting people off because
Oh.
you have to immediately
Alrighty.
jump in and continue where that person left off. That is the
Perfect.
point,
So we'll
actually.
triangle time. Perfect.
Yes. All right. So Curious, you keep time. Make some sort of. Do you have like a bell thing or something you could set off?
Ooh, a bell.
Or some type of little sound that you can make ding every 20 seconds, like with a stopwatch, and then you can make a sound go off or something so it jumps to the next person.
I think we can just start interrupting each other. I'm not sure.
Awesome.
I should
Yeah,
be
you
able
can
to
just call
pull
the
something
ding
up.
manually and just say
All right.
ding.
Yeah, do it that way. All right.
That's fun.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so I'm on this balcony in like a ancient looking Russian town. I'm looking off and it's like a cute town. There's like a huge river with a big tree. I'm fully naked and lucid on this balcony, so I'm just free. There's people singing on one balcony, somebody else is painting. This 100-year-old tree has a tree house in it and a lot of names engraved in it. And somebody from the river calls me over to talk to me and tell me about this beautiful Russian town that they're living in. They're
And
going
this town
through
is really,
trouble.
really beautiful because and this person starts telling me that inside this town there's a little bit of a mystery. There's something a little bit special about what's going on here because this town has these really mysterious wisps and they appear in the form of flowing smoke and they lined up to create a long path that I followed into that forest near the tree. And you know, I still don't have any clothes on right now, so.
And then I
That
walked through the middle of this forest, and all of a sudden these
rush
wisps
of inspiration starts to come to my head.
these wisps just sort of coalesce into the figures of ex-members of the Romanov dynasty, and their entire lineage is just spread out before me in this dream.
And
then
they are also naked. I don't know why everybody is naked in this dream, but we decided to form loincloths out of leaves, and now we all have clothes.
Hey. 20 seconds. You just steamrolled right over me, brother.
He was like 5 seconds early, but that's okay.
Actually,
That's
I think
fine.
he was closer to 10 or 15 seconds early, but oh well. Yeah, he was pretty early. I was about 7 seconds in of my 20 seconds.
Yeah. Not timely at all.
That was not timely at all.
It's okay. That took a different turn than where my dream actually went. So that was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's try again.
All right, shall I begin the dream next?
Yes, and then Night Owl can interrupt you 5 seconds.
Well, okay.
Night Owl should go last.
Yes, Night Owl's gonna go last.
We'll cue you.
Yes.
All right, 20 seconds.
Okay.
So remember, just as I began the dream, the view transformed into a stone stairway leading up to that platform full of my recollections, right? What a magnificent sight it was! All these sets of rectangular holographic devices that each displayed a small memory, right? It was a display of what my mind really was about. They were arranged in these really, really tall white racks. So I walked around that maze of reminiscence until I reached the reading and writing alley, the warmest place of all.
And then I just accidentally blundered through one of these sort of windows, and I found myself sitting in this like lounge space, and I was looking around, and I was on the Golden Princess cruise ship. I was in that aft lounge at the back of deck 7, and I was just experiencing this time where this karaoke contest was going on. But I realized that I was just dreaming, so I actually just went up on stage, said screw it, and started singing randomly to the entire crowd for no particular reason whatsoever.
And then people started throwing tomatoes and booing me on stage while I was singing. And so I started to just fly around the crowd and sprinkle glitter on everybody. And then I flew out of the stage because they weren't appreciating my singing. So I changed the dreamscape. And now I'm in ancient Egypt looking at the pyramids. And then I decided I want to climb to the top of the pyramids and see if I can summon some aliens. So I start flying up to the top of the Egyptian pyramids. And I think, Night Owl, this is your cue. You can continue the story if you're there. But there.
Well, the weird thing is, it felt like I lived a lifetime in this dream. So not only was I in Egypt, but I also had a long life with children in this foreign country. And for some reason, I felt this sense of connection to them and this place I was in as if I'd been there before, perhaps a past life. I actually found a puddle of water and I was able to see my reflection and I was unable to recognize myself. But it seems like there's no sense of time here. Time was dilated, and I started to work my way into the town plaza where there was a ton of people who were fully clothed this time. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I
find it so wonderful how when I began the dream, obviously each of our dreams go a certain direction, but we each take it with our own personal experiences and anecdotes, and it just goes somewhere. Because as soon as you mention cruise ship, I'm like, this is so Skyfall, right? Like,
yeah. And I was basing that off of real memories, by the way. I didn't actually get up and sing at that specific moment, but I really was sitting in that aft lounge on deck 7 of the Golden Princess during the finals of that karaoke competition. So yeah, that was the real thing that happened. And that was 2014, by the way. But yeah, I'm going to start this one. And And this one, I'm walking around in New York City with this time agent from the 31st century, and we descend the stairs into the Delancey Street, Essex Street subway station in Lower Manhattan. And all of a sudden, things transformed to like 1940s, and people are using subway tokens. I don't even know what like old trains are running. And I get down to the subway platform, and I'm looking to get on a train.
All of a sudden, this portal rips open on the middle of the train, and more secret agent time travelers hop out. And they start pointing guns at us because this guy that I'm with is not supposed to be traveling through the dream world in the way that he is. So we start sprinting up and down the subway stations, hopping trains, trying to get away from these people that are chasing us. And
Uh-oh. It seems that we're illegal time travelers. We're not actually supposed to be here, and obviously we recognize some of the stuff from the future. It seems like we brought something with us that does not, unfortunately, fit the time. So they take us into this interdimensional junction of a prison where I don't think I even know where I am, and it seems to be between the edges of reality and the underworld. Night Owl.
Well, the good thing about the underworld is it's not so bad after all. It was actually bright, full of color. There were flowers everywhere, except the smell was really bad. It's not what you would expect it to be. It's actually the worst smell you can possibly imagine. Garlic. I'm just kidding. I love garlic. So it wasn't garlic. It was blue cheese and onions mixed together. And there was a plate of pudding in front of me. And it was a weird color purple. And for some reason, I was still tempted to try it. But this is the underworld. What have I got to lose? So I decided to take a bite. And as I dipped my spoon into the pudding, I realized it was as hard as a rock. So I just licked it. And it actually tasted delicious.
Oh, geez. This is so funny, guys.
Fantastic.
This is so funny. I love the improv nature because like improving and thinking on your feet is something that like a lot of people they'll do like all the time, and it's really fun. And Night Owl, you go last. Actually, well, you go first this time. Night Owl, Curious, and I think we'll end with Night Owl, me, Amina, and Curious. I think we'll go that way. How about that?
All right.
Thank you. All right, so I'll start the dream off, and this time we're on a boat in the middle of the water, and in all directions you look, you can't see land. The boat seems calm enough, but there's still this uneasy feeling of seasickness creeping in, and I'm starting to wonder where we are and how we're going to get back. There's nobody else on the ship. It's dark outside, and it seems like a storm is rolling in. So I really
it's so
hope.
dark, and this storm starts to begin. But unfortunately, it seems like the world decided to defy the laws of physics, and the boat immediately capsizes. I can feel the water rushing up my nostrils, and I'm starting to struggle to get out of this because the water's so cold right now. And I think I've noticed a creature in the distance. I think it's coming toward me.
And then I think back to the moment of getting seasick and realize, hey, I'm actually dreaming. I must be dreaming right now because I never actually get seasick. And I just decide to go full on cue and just snap my fingers, and then whatever the creature's coming for me just separates into like 5 different peaches, and they all swim off in different directions. And I decide, what am I doing in the middle of the ocean? You know, the middle of the ocean is kind of okay. And so I shoot straight up into the air, and next thing I know, I'm sort of dancing around into Elton John's Rocket Man, swimming around in space in the middle of the solar system.
And then I decide to jump off of a planet back into the ocean, and I dive 100 miles deep into the bottom of the ocean. And I keep flying through the ocean until I reach the lost city of Atlantis. And then there's a lot of like fish, half alien human people that are living there. And I tell them I'm in a dream. And they're like, this is not a dream. This is my real life reality. What are you talking about? And we look at each other like we're crazy.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I think by the end of this, I'm gonna re-listen to the recording and see if I can generate these dream scenes with AI. I would love to see what that comes up with, but
Yes.
I'll see if I can send it. Maybe we can put it in the next newsletter or something. I don't know.
Spare me the nudity, though, whatever you do.
Oh no, that's not gonna happen. No way.
Yeah. But yeah, this will be a lot of fun for the next newsletter, honestly. So yeah, all for that, 100% all for that. That'll be a great recap for the next newsletter.
Yeah.
And so, Night Owl, actually, what has your most recent dreams been like?
That's a great question, actually. It's still a little loud where I am, so I'll try to speak up. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can.
Okay. All right, really quickly, I would say the fact that I've been in such a random place all over the spot, they've been kind of nightmarish. I think that's a feature of when I travel. I'm a little uneasy about my environment. I'm on edge. I'm not sleeping well. So yeah, if you ever stayed in a hotel, you know you don't always get the best sleep. But I will say a lot of the more meaningful experiences I've had have sort of made their way into my dreams as well. So like we saw a few shows, had a few more meaningful moments with my daughter that I know will stick with me for a lifetime. And I've also dreamt about that. So it's not all bad.
Awesome. What about you, Curious?
I have to say that the quantity of experimentation right now I'm doing with memory is so fascinating because I remember my friend always used to ask me, hey, you can lucid dream. Can you take your physics homework, bring that into the dream, and work on it there? And I'm like, maybe to that degree it's definitely possible, but I mean, I don't have hypothermesia. Like, I cannot remember every single part of my biographical life. Sorry, I can't say words today. So the second thing that I tried recently, just going through a system like person action object for cards, I'm like, can I bring a deck of cards into the dream? Because we always think of dreams as inherently unstable. What is the dreamer doing? And I know oftentimes
I don't
a
think
lot of
about
people
that
talk
in that
about
way.
well, it depends. Well, I've seen many people talk about some specific reality checks, for example, as you look at some words, you look away, and then you intend for them to be something else. Suddenly they transform, but like you don't have the same tangibility that you necessarily might have. Like it doesn't follow the same rules that the reality may have. Obviously, it may be different for anybody else, but like, what if I could take a deck of cards and I would have put that in the dream and name it perfectly? And I was successful about like 2 days ago, and that was so wonderful. The fact that you could take a large amount of comprehensible information, turn that into something visual, right, to make it even more tangible, and then suddenly you're dreaming about that.
That doesn't surprise me too well because to me it seems almost to be kind of a memory thing anyway. So to me it's almost like memory determines whether or not something is, I wouldn't use the term stable per se, but consistent or persistent. So how well you remember something complex or how complex the thing is. So for example, when I've played some of the text-based games I play in my dreams, and the mechanics work almost perfectly for variety of some of the games that I play. The mechanics work almost perfectly in the dreams because I've memorized how they're supposed to work and I have it in my mind exactly how everything is supposed to work, and it works almost perfectly. There's occasionally a little glitch here and there, but the systems aren't like really extremely simple per se. There's different things that go into it, and so it is kind of cool when technology for me works really really well in dreams. So some people have that issue where it doesn't, and so yeah, I think if you take something specific that you remembered, in this case, you have a lot of things that's associated with your deck of cards and how you do that, but you remember it, and if you can remember it well, I think that can help you with maintaining something persistent like that, like keeping it that way if you can remember it well. You have a good memory, Curious, so that bit doesn't surprise him so much. It wasn't like a random thing you were paying attention to. It was something very specific that you intentionally were trying to remember. So that doesn't surprise me too much.
Right, I'll definitely agree with the idea that it's persistence, not stability. Maybe you're good on catching me with the linguistics there. I think we'll stick with the idea of persistence or consistence. So yeah.
And for me, a lot of my dreams have just been kind of wacky all over the place. Like I've got school stuff going on, so I'm getting into my like last stretch. But I've had like that subway dream was one that I actually had a couple nights ago where I was walking into the subway station. The character I was with was based on Agent Daniels from Star Trek Enterprise, which I've never really watched, but I've heard a bit about. He was a time agent from the 31st century, and so like everything kind of morphed around and transformed because of that. And then there was that dream where I was on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship and I got loose and I was like, "Oh, this is fun." This is like basically like a Freedom class ship, and I was just exploring around because I thought it was kind of fun to do that. And so that's kind of things that have been happening to me over the past few days. And then there's just been this bird that's pecking at my window every morning at 7 a.m. and that's kind of annoying, but so is life. But basically, I've been kind of enjoying this past day or so. Everything that we've been doing today has been a lot of fun. And so I'm very interested in seeing where we ultimately do go from here. I've been on Reddit more the past couple of days, kind of answering questions and doing stuff for people as well. But yeah, I mean, you had any cool dreams recently?
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've had some interesting lucid dreams in the past couple of weeks. Let's see. So me and my friend who's also a lucid dreamer, I posted like a couple videos about this. We have like this little experiment going on where we're trying to like exchange a keyword in the dream, you know? Like I have a word for her, she has a word for me, and we don't know each other's word. And so we try to like find each other in the dream space. So we had a bunch of fails, you know, where like I found her and she gave me some random word that didn't have anything to do with it and vice versa. But we did have one interesting success where so my word for her was sushi, right? I think I might have told you guys about this. And so I was just every time I would see her in a dream, I would tell her, "My word is sushi." You know, I'm lucid. My word is sushi. This is like a specific dream test that we had carried out. And so then finally, after like a month of trying, she had a dream that she told me about the next morning. She was like, "I couldn't find you in the dream, but I had my phone, and interestingly enough, her phone was working in the dream. She was lucid, so she was texting me in the dream, 'Hey, what's your word?' And my word was sushi, right? But what she got in the dream was me texting her back a picture of like one of those Swiss cake rolls, which is basically a chocolate sushi roll. It's literally has the exact same shape as a sushi roll. If you look up a picture of like a Swiss roll, or if you know the shape of it, structurally it looks like sushi, just different ingredients. So as soon as she sent me that picture the next day, she was like, "Oh, this is what I got out of my dream. Not sure if it's related to your word." And because she was like, "Is it cake?" I was like, "It's not cake." She was like, "Is it something edible?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Well, this is what I got in the dream." And the picture was literally so shocking to me because I'm looking at that like, wow, this is kind of like progress. Like, I feel like this is revolutionary. Maybe I'm just, you know, excited because looks like sushi. So we're continuing to do that just for fun. And so the other day I did have a lucid dream where I found her and I tried to get her word but she wasn't there. So I was asking a bunch of dream characters what's her keyword, and they gave me a bunch of random words, and sadly none of them were related, but we'll
Mhm.
keep trying. So that's what we've been doing.
No, you never did actually tell us about that. Not that I can recall. So yeah, that's actually pretty new. I will just say, from a personal level, I'm not a big sushi person, so the Swiss roll definitely sounds much, much tastier.
Yeah, and it was crazy because when I saw that picture, I was like, "Yo, your brain like kind of was translating what I was sending you, but like, you know, it's like the game of broken telephone where by the end of the time it reaches the other person's brain, it's like a little bit different, but like kind of the same." It literally was like, "Wow, that's shockingly what's the word? Uncanny."
Like, yeah, yeah. Telephone is kind of fun. I think I was one of those people when I played telephone. Like, I was one of those deviant little jerks that would sometimes change the word intentionally. Just honestly, me as a little kid, I was chaos as like a little kid. I was I learned the rules of football by playing football games back when I could see better, by playing some football games on Xbox and then systematically breaking every single rule. That's how I learned the rules of football.
That's funny. Yeah, exactly. So that's been interesting in the dream world. Um, what else? Did anybody else have to go? Or should we do audience questions after?
Honestly, my audience doesn't seem to have anything to say, but if yours has some
Hello,
stuff,
Voidway.
that'd be awesome.
So we have a couple here. Yeah, I'm looking at the comments. I'm not sure if this is coming from LDI or from my YouTube. So I'll just kind of go through the list. First one from Samantha. Hopefully, or sorry, Shamanth. Hopefully you're still there. Um, the awareness behind the dream, is it an entity within us, is it our soul, or is it an entity outside of us which we get access to when we dream in a dream or astral dimension? What do y'all think?
I love talking about this all the time, specifically because it has to do with the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind, just to put it simply, is anything that we're not presently aware of, right? So it's not our conscious, we're unconscious. So when you ask the word for awareness, that's already lights are going up in my head. So if the question is it an entity within us? Well, it's definitely something that we can observe, right? Because when we're in that dream, the dreamer, as I and many other lucid dreamers like to call it, I mean, it's doing some things that we can observe, but that we cannot necessarily control. Now, as to some other hypotheses as to whether it's something that is outside of us, it's not something that is purely scientific. I mean, at least for now, it can be pretty difficult to figure out exactly, well, where does the unconscious come from, right? I mean, yeah, you could talk about electrical signals in the brain and everything, but it's not something that is really, really present in our conscious. So, Does it get access to something outside of us? Maybe. Well, we've had questions answered in dreams by a lot of different pioneers, as well as myself. I've actually once there was a word that a dream character gave to me inside a dream that I had no idea what the definition was of before. I looked up the definition of the word on Google, and I'm like, wait, why is that correct? So one hypothesis to that might be maybe I saw it unconsciously, didn't witness it with my own conscious mind, didn't store that consciously, but somehow it was floating around in that unconscious place. Or it could really be something that was given from an outside perspective. But for my side, I say I'm open to all sorts of possibilities. The unconscious is a very, very mysterious place of our minds.
Yeah. I think awareness is, I define simply awareness as active knowledge, actively knowing something in the moment you're aware of it. So that's sort of, it is very, being aware is a very kind of conscious thing. It is actively knowing something. And as far as like some of those connections and stuff, all those things, one of the things I found kind of interesting is like in a completely different subject. We were talking kind of about network theory a little bit and how things are kind of interconnected. And some examples they gave are like a flock of birds isn't like consciously having like a leader choose where to go, but like through all their kind of interactions, they kind of have this group collective action. And you can see this in like crowds of people or like ant colonies, things like that. And so there's like this like network theory of like interconnectivity and interplay between things, kind of creating chaos spontaneously out of, or order spontaneously out of chaos. So there's like that kind of theory that could be potentially involved in something like this. And also, just observing something and not actively noticing it or remembering it. The good example for me is lucid dreaming, actually, because I first would have heard about it when I watched Star Trek Voyager, and I watched Star Trek Voyager like a couple times before I ever even actually knew what lucid dreaming was. And so I had actually heard of it before, but forgotten about it. And so it could also be that you're unsurfacing something that you've heard and just not really remembered hearing or where it came from until like years later. You go back and rewatch the thing and go, oh, so that's where I heard it from. And yeah, and so for years I thought that I first heard about lucid dreaming in 2020 when that was actually just wrong. And so yeah, I'm sure you can pick up things, some really obscure things sometimes, and just not really remember them, but those memories can still be there, just not consciously, it's not associated with anything that's accessing them. And so it just could come up randomly, part of that like kind of chaotic mess, I guess. And yeah, that's there's a lot of things that could be going on there. It's not fully well understood yet, but one of the things I find cool about science is that the more questions we answer, the more answers we question. Like the more questions we kind of have as a result, and that's actually a really good one. The more questions we answer, the more answers we question. I think that's actually a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's true. I think that there's definitely a lot that we still don't understand about the dream space and our dreaming brains. And from like my spiritual scientific combination perspective, I do think that there is like a more intelligent entity that helps put the dream together, saying the awareness behind the dream, which Robert Wagner talks about in his books. And I think that I see that as like it is a part of me. It's like my higher self, you might see it as like your soul or like over soul, like described in a lot of movies and shows and things like that. And it's kind of like the part of us that is um mm, you know not as human, maybe more spiritually intelligent, and helps us through life and things like that. And I think because of that, that is a part of us that is able to access the unconditional potential energy of the universe that helps us learn things, practice things, give us information and advice that guide us through life using our dreams. And when you combine that with your conscious waking self, become more aware of your dreams, become more lucid in your dreams, interact with this awareness behind the dream, you get so much more out of dream work in general. And you just kind of open up that relationship between you and your subconscious or your higher self, whatever you call it. It's these inner parts of us that kind of help us through life. So yeah, that's the way I see it. And I love this question as well. Anybody else have thoughts on that question, or should I go to the next one? Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one.
Yeah, definitely the next one. I just had to unmute myself.
Oh, you're good. is there a connection between the moon and lucid dreaming? Can we use any ritual using the waning and waxing cycles of the moon to become lucid? I like this question too, because, it's interesting. A lot of people are like, don't really like astrology and that kind of stuff. But it is kind of known that, like, the moon has a heat and the planets and the way, like, um everything is aligned, that it has an impact on our tides and our energy and all this kind of stuff in some way. So you might want to notice for yourself. But I have noticed that around full moons I have more vivid dreams, and just the energy is just different inside my mind. So it has an impact on my dream life. A lot of people notice that, so I don't know, I'd like to hear from y'all as well. But you can create your own rituals with it, whatever kind of is calling you to do, whether it's like a meditation, some yoga, anything that is good for the mind, body, or soul. I think when aligned with just the moon or any cyclical kind of pattern that you work with can be beneficial for the dream life.
I have to say that archetypically across various cultures, the moon has always been that recurring theme. I mean, you can go all over and you're always going to find something about the moon. And I often bring up associations with the moon for something like the stock market, right? I mean, returns on average, they're maybe a little bit lower or higher daily around the full moon than for around the 15 days around that new moon. So there are definitely some associations, unconscious associations that are going on. And I would want to suggest that maybe, if you believe it so, there may be some associations between the moon and your current dream, right? And you might not be associated, like you might not be consciously aware of that. But because of the unconscious associations that go along with that, and the number of different things that the moon has influence upon, I think, yeah, there might be some influence if you really pay attention to it.
Yeah, I don't know about this one personally. Like I tend to, of course, place myself more in like the Western, empirical side of things. Anyone who knows me kind of knows where I'm at on that typically. Of course, the moon affects tides and gravitational forces in particular, but I don't know if there's, again, there's been kind of these sort of things that have come down. I don't know exactly where they come from. Don't know if they're just, sort of maybe, you know, inherited or hereditary. I almost said heretical, but I meant to say hereditary. Or something like, associating the moon with different parts of like seasons or anything of that nature that can affect behavior in some way. Potentially, I could see something like that being a cause or being a part of that somewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it too. I like how we have all these kind of balancing perspectives. So next question, Larita says, what to search for on Reddit for lucid dreaming help? So you guys are the Reddit experts, and then after you talk about Reddit, I'll give you some other resources
So,
of things.
so I'll take this one. I will say in terms of what to search for, just because I'm one of the people who answers things on Reddit. Most Reddit posts aren't actually advice giving posts. You're not going to typically find necessarily, you'll find some things in posts, but there's also a lot of really old posts on there. There's some like really high upvoted older posts, and some of those have some old inaccuracies in there that have been around for years. And like, for example, on the r/lucid dreaming forum, on the sidebar, there's still an old wild guide there that is not very accurate, and there are a couple things there that aren't very accurate. And so there are still some things there that I wouldn't recommend looking at. Where you're going to find good advice isn't necessarily in the posts themselves, but in the comments on posts. You'll see people linking guides. That's something I do quite a lot. For example, if you look through my comment history, you'll likely find my recall advice, you'll find my dream control advice, you'll find guides that I recommend and link. And typically what a lot of the posts are just on the day-to-day because the r/lucid dreaming subreddit is very beginner heavy. So the posts being made are, in the vast majority, I'd say at least 3/4, being made by beginners asking questions. And so people tend to post to seek answers to a question rather than to answer questions more broadly. And then when you get into comments, people try to answer questions more tailored to an individual in that way. And so that's typically how the Reddit forum is used for people to try to get advice and learn, is they ask questions that get answered for the most part. You're not, if I wouldn't know, you're not going to find like just a whole bunch of general posts. There are some good ones here, and there's a good beginner guide from somebody that I like, that I tend to recommend to people. But if you're just searching for posts, most of the posts you're going to find on there are actually, anything recent are questions, and anything that's like specific advice. There's a lot of older stuff on there that may or may not be the most accurate. And so that's just kind of where I stand on that.
Thanks, Skyfall. Yeah, that makes total sense. You guys are more active on Reddit, so that's helpful. Hopefully that helps. And in terms of other resources, follow the Lucid Dream Initiative, the Dream World podcast on YouTube, Skyfall Blind Dreamer. We all make content about lucid dreaming. We all love helping people. We have Discord groups. If you go on my website, the Dream World podcast, I have like a blog post of a bunch of different YouTube channels, Discord channels, Facebook groups. So whatever social media you like, you can find a lucid dreaming community there. So yeah. Awesome. Okay, we have another question. From the Flavorsome Carpet. Does waking up during REM for a technique affect your sleep in any way? Anybody want to take this one? I have thoughts too.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, this is one of those things where I'm going to give you 100% yes or 100% no, because this can really vary from person to person. Honestly, it will affect your sleep to the extent that, you probably want to budget for the time that you spend awake. But if you do budget for the time that you spend awake, you get back to sleep and you still get your, appropriate amount of sleep. You can build a sleep schedule around waking up. And as far as like waking up specifically during REM sleep, that's a lot of that is kind of hit or miss or kind of guesswork for a lot of people. Unless you're actively tracking your sleep, you can't really know 100% for certain if you actually did wake up during REM sleep or not. And so typically that's why people just tend to recommend blanket windows in which to wake up, and it's really up to the individual to determine what works best for them. Now, the caveats I will give are, one, for prolonged awakenings, because, and I'm talking what I define and classify as the classical wake back to bed approach. So like the Libergian wake back to bed, where you stay awake for an hour and a half. Yeah, that can affect your sleep. That's something that's not really recommended to do frequently. Staying awake for say like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, if you can fall asleep pretty quickly or easily, won't affect your sleep too much. If you're someone with like insomnia, like I've run into people on Reddit just within the past week who, if they're awake for even a few minutes, and like they know they're awake for a few minutes and they observe that and they try to do anything, then they can have real trouble falling back asleep, and obviously that affects their sleep. So this is really something that's almost individual in a lot of ways, because I don't know your sleep well enough to say this is going to affect you or this is not going to affect you. On the whole, for the average person, if you're only awake for a little bit of time and you budget that into your sleep schedule and you can build a routine around it, then it shouldn't affect you too much. If you stay awake for a really long time, that can affect you. That's kind of like the basics on that, but it can really vary from person to person and kind of the activity level, the energy level that somebody has, or how well they can return to sleep. One of the things I just will note in conclusion is that we all wake up multiple times a night. It's just most people don't notice or remember these awakenings, just like a lot of people don't notice or remember their dreams. These awakenings are usually really, really short and extremely forgettable, just like people forget their dreams. And so a lot of people don't realize, hey, you actually are waking up multiple times naturally every night. You're just not really aware of that. And I always find that kind of interesting to point out to people.
Yeah, it definitely varies from person to person. So for me personally, in my experience, I usually wake up in my later REM periods when I'm doing like a wake back to bed. And I do have sleep trackers and things to know when I'm in REM. But usually the prime time for me for lucid dreaming is between like 6 and 8 a.m. I wake up for like no more than 10 minutes. But you can experiment. Some people wake up for like an hour, but I want to still be very sleepy. So I go back to sleep. And I still feel rested. Like I get enough sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours a night. So I'm already rested. I'm not missing out on my regularly scheduled REM sleep. I'm just waking up during those later REM periods so I can have that awareness. I'm still like sleepy, so I can easily go back to sleep. Not everybody can. That's why it's very dependent on individual. But I don't even really get out of bed. And then I go back right into the dream, continue the dream story with more awareness, usually lucid at that time. And that works really well for me, is those early morning REM hours. So a lot of people feel more refreshed after having a lucid dream. You're not like missing out on REM sleep. So it just depends. Experiment with what works for you. If you need to tweak how long that awakening is, or tweak the times that you go to sleep. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I definitely have to say when it comes to something like waking up, it really, really depends per person. So I fully agree with Skyfall here. On top of like my experiences, I'm definitely with Amina on once you find that right time. I mean, I often find myself waking up at night all the time and being aware of that. falling back to sleep, getting that lucid dream, and waking up completely refreshed. There has been some evidence as to like brainwaves during REM sleep appear like super similar to those during wakefulness. So maybe finding that right time, maybe if you get it during the third stage, if you wake up during the third stage or during REM, it might make some sort of difference. But overall, I'm in support of that, though. I think you're gonna have to try it for yourself if you really want your own personal answer.
Yeah, but I do love wake back to bed. I think it's a great technique. So I suggest everybody at least try it out.
Yeah. I'm one of those people who, I'm a full-blooded opportunist, and I take the opportunistic approach. And so I, recommend that people do try it out, but also actually do it in the most effective and proper way, which means doing a technique with it, like mild SSLD typically, or what you would do during an awakening, something along those lines typically. Instead of just getting up and going back to sleep, actually do something more affirmative towards the practice with that as well, because that is honestly where some of the true power, and that is it gives you the opportunity to perform techniques multiple times. It raises your awareness, and it reduces the latency between performing the technique and actually returning to sleep. And so all those things really help out. Honestly, feel like I'm kind of of the opinion that if you just do wake back to bed and don't do anything else, you just get up and go back to sleep, it's almost like it's almost like not taking full advantage of a perfectly good opportunity in the way I kind of see it.
Awesome. Yes. So that's all the questions I have on my end, and we only have 9 minutes left. So that's great timing. If anybody has a last minute question, now's the time to drop it in. But I just
Yep.
wanted to say thank you, everybody, for supporting.
Yeah, I just want to say, kind of like a funny aside here. I have like 80 something Reddit followers, and I have 0 concurrent viewers. And I put this out several days ago on my Reddit profile, so like nobody even noticed. It's amazing. It's like I have a total number of 0 concurrent viewers on my end, so no questions over here. I can tell you that much. So
All good.
yeah, I'm
Well,
looking forward to tomorrow though.
yes. Okay. So yeah, let's do some little shout outs and promos, letting everybody know what we have going on. So tomorrow we're gonna do another live stream. Follow the LD Initiative YouTube, subscribe, whatever, if you're not already doing it. Like, share, all that good stuff to support. So tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, we're doing a Lucid Deep Dives. It's going to be one of the roundtable discussions with more people from the community. We're going to be doing different topics. I believe this topic for tomorrow is kind of the overlap and the differences between the science and spirituality of lucid dreaming. So kind of where the gap, bridging the gap or whatever, getting different perspectives on that. So I love that topic. It's going to be great. So tune in, turn notifications on for that as well. Also, we have a newsletter that we release every month. So you can go to our website, ldinitiative.org, and subscribe to get our newsletter, where we give you sometimes free stuff, cool news, dream stories. You can submit a dream story to be featured. And yeah, what else, guys? What
Our,
else
our,
do we have?
our next newsletter will be coming out on Tuesday, April 30th. For those of you who are subscribed, or those of you who are interested in subscribing. Of course, the Lucid Deep Dives will have one tomorrow, and then we'll also have another one next Saturday, I do believe, at 2 p.m. as well.
Yes.
So if you want the other type of flavor, like the other, smaller discussion group that we typically have as well, keep an eye out for that. If you are watching this either now or alive, or you're watching the recording of this, if you really enjoyed and liked this, I'd really love for anyone to give a thumbs up, give a like, subscribe to the LE Initiative YouTube channel, subscribe to Dreamer Podcast, subscribe to Skyfall Blind Dreamer, and just tell people that you liked what we had to offer today. And please come out and check us out if you haven't already at ldinitiative.org. That is where you can find all things LDI related, everything that we're getting ready so far. We are just starting, so there's a lot more that will be coming down the road. So please stay tuned for all of that.
Yay. And one more question to close us off, which I think is a good one to end on. How, for beginners or just in general, any tips for staying motivated on getting lucid dreaming, increasing your frequency, working on goals? I'm sure you guys have great tips.
Why? Your why. Why do you want to lucid dream? Your goal, your purpose. One of the things I've talked about in one of my classes is almost kind of, it's a philosophy class. It deals with philosophy, political theory, and money. But one of the things I talked about just a little bit at the end of the last one is purpose. humans need a purpose. We need a purpose to succeed in life, to do things. If we have a purpose, if we don't have a purpose, we're just wandering aimlessly, then we don't have motivation to do anything. Having a purpose, having something that's underlying that drives us forward is a big motivator. It helps give us the strength to do things that we need to do that maybe we don't really want to do in that moment, or to do things that we want to do because we're going to get some sort of fulfillment out of it. So start out with some really clearly defined objective. Have a good why, a good reason, a good goal, a good purpose for lucid dreaming, and set some short-term, medium-term, and long-term reasonable goals to help you, progress along the way. Try to find some goals that you can set, that you can try to achieve and work towards, and start with that purpose. You want to have that purpose for lucid dreaming, that why. That's always what you start with. So why do you want to lucid dream?
You stole everything from me. No, I'm just joking. Idea thief Skyfall. No, I have to tell you, purpose is one of the biggest things that you can get for motivation during a lucid dream, and it's not only for lucid dreaming. I have to say, when you apply that to the idea of greater life, right? If you really want to be motivated to do something, if you have a reason for doing this, right, you're gonna get all the hope, all the motivation that you need. But if I want to add a little bit on top of that, just from my personal experiences, I always love to use the word potential here, because once you have that purpose, you know exactly why you're going to be doing it. If you could just imagine, right, that goal right out into the future. It's a very, very classic NLP technique. You just open up the timeline and you put in that vision into your future. If you can just imagine what that is really like, just it's the thing with potential and the thing with visualization is it's a way to make that why as tangible as possible. What is that final picture that you're looking for, and what do you really want to accomplish in a lucid dream? And every single time maybe you could do it with mild, or every single time you incubate or imagine or anything like that, you might want to see yourself getting lucid and accomplishing that very thing. And I think at least that turned for me what seemed at first like, oh, it's a technique, and I'm getting really, really tired right now. Like, it becomes something that is pleasant for me to do, right? So as I go to sleep, I'm like, I do it because I really love doing it. No matter that night if I get lucid or not, it's something that becomes a part of practice, right? So that would be my way of keeping motivation.
Awesome. I love it. I would say that all of you gave great answers. That really knowing why you want to lucid dream and kind of reminding yourself of your purpose. And just don't get frustrated with it. Make it fun. Make it a part of your routine. Just incorporate it in your life however you can. And remember, at the end of the day, I do believe that we all are natural lucid dreamers. Even if some people have to work a little harder than others, you will eventually get there. And DMART, that's a great thing that you just said in the chat, which I was actually about to say, is find a community, find friends that love talking about dreams. Normalize not just lucid dreaming, but all your dreams. Fall in love with them, talk about them, dream share with other people, like create a community of like opening up that language and getting involved with the lucid dreaming community that's already out there online. You'll just naturally learn by starting to read about it, learn about it, watch videos or articles or whatever it is that you like to consume in terms of content. Just read about lucid dreaming, and the more you learn about it, the more you're priming your brain for that awareness. And so you will just get there. And good luck to you, and thanks for sharing. Thanks for asking. Thanks for joining. All that good
Absolutely.
stuff.
Thank you so much. And just to go off of that really quick is like the normalization aspect. One of the things you can do that with lucid dreaming in particular is with language. And so instead of just calling your non-lucid dreams your normal dreams, just call them non-lucid dreams and lucid dreams, because your lucid dreams can also be normal. They can be normal experiences that you have, especially if you start having them over time. So I think that can be something that helps too with improving that lucidity practice and motivational, but is to change how you approach your language that you use for describing your dreams. So don't just limit normal to just your non-lucid dreams. And the mic drops.
Yes, we must playfully persist, as Robert Wagner says. I love that.
That is
Perfect.
good.
Yes, and with that being said, thanks everybody for joining our stream. That wraps up our hour. So make sure to follow us. Catch us tomorrow. We'll be back on YouTube. And happy International Lucid Dreaming Day.
Happy International Lucid Dreaming Day.
Woohoo!